Right now, someone is lying to you, and you believe them. That's not weakness. That's just being human. We trust. We have to. But some of the biggest lies of the last 100 years didn't come from strangers in the dark. They came from your government, your doctor, the company sitting in your pocket, and the people who tried to warn everyone. They were called crazy, paranoid, tinfoil hat. You probably think you'd have known better, that you'd have seen through it. But every story you're about to hear was once a joke, a fantasy, something only a fool would believe, until the documents came out. By the end of this, you'll understand why the most dangerous thing you can do is be certain. And the last one? It's still happening tonight. Let's start with the one that sounds the most insane. For years, people whispered that the CIA tried to turn animals into spies. Everyone laughed, then the files were declassified and the laughing stopped. In the 1960s, the CIA had a problem. Human spies could be caught. Caught spies could be killed. So they asked a strange question. What walks past a Soviet embassy and nobody looks twice? A cat. They called it Acoustic Kitty. Surgeons cut the animal open. They placed a microphone inside its ear canal, a tiny transmitter at the base of its skull, a thin antenna woven through its fur, all the way to the tail. Imagine that. A living, breathing, listening device, purring on a park bench. They spent an estimated $20 million on it. In 1967, they drove it to a park near the Soviet embassy in Washington. Two officials sat on a bench. The target was right there. They opened the van. They let the cat out. According to former CIA officer Victor Marchetti, seconds later, a taxi ran it over. $20 million. Gone. In one street crossing. But here's the part that should bother you. They didn't stop. In the 1970s, they built a robotic dragonfly, a drone the size of an insect, weighing a single gram with a microphone in its body. It actually flew. It just couldn't survive a light breeze. So if the wildest theory, government spy animals, turned out to be real, what about the device you're holding right now? For years, iPhone owners noticed something. Every time a new model dropped, their old one mysteriously slowed to a crawl. People said Apple was doing it on purpose, to force upgrades. And if you believed that, you were paranoid. Then in December 2017, a developer named John Poole, who builds a benchmarking tool called Geekbench, ran the numbers. His data showed it plainly. After a software update called iOS 10.2.1, older iPhones with worn batteries were being throttled, deliberately. Quietly. The paranoid people had been right the entire time. Within days, Apple admitted it. They said it was to stop the phones from shutting down. But they had never told anyone. The lawsuits came fast. In 2020, Apple agreed to pay up to $500 million. When it was finally handed out, owners got around $92 each. That's the price of being slowed down without your consent. Now think about that feeling, the thing you depend on working against you, while you blame yourself, because the next company didn't just slow you down, it did the math on your death. In the early 1970s, Ford needed a cheap, small car, fast. Their boss demanded it weigh under 2,000 pounds and cost under $2,000. A new car normally took 43 months to design. Ford gave its engineers 25. The result was the Pinto. And it had a flaw. The gas tank sat right behind the rear bumper. In a rear-end crash, it could rupture, spray fuel, and ignite. In crash test after crash test, the car burst into flames. Ford built it anyway. And here is the conspiracy that turned out true. An internal analysis weighed two numbers. The cost to fix the fuel systems, about $137 million. The estimated cost of the burns and the deaths in lawsuits, around $49 million. Fixing it cost more than letting people burn, so they let people burn. In 1977, journalist Mark Dowie exposed it in an article called Pinto Madness. The country was horrified. In June 1978, Ford finally recalled 1.5 million Pintos. Estimates of how many died in the fires range from 27 to 180. Real people who never knew a spreadsheet had already decided their lives weren't worth the repair, but at least you could see a burning car. The next lie went into your body and you swallowed it for 50 years. In the 1950s, Americans were dying of heart attacks, and nobody agreed why. Some scientists pointed at fat, a few pointed at sugar. The sugar industry could not let sugar take the blame. So in 1965, a group called the Sugar Research Foundation made a quiet deal. They paid two Harvard researchers about $6,500. That's roughly $50,000 in today's money. The job? Write a review of the science that blamed fat and waved sugar away. It was published in 1967 in one of the most respected medical journals in the world. No one disclosed who paid for it. And because it carried the Harvard name, The world believed it. For decades, you were told the same thing. Cut the fat. Sugar is fine. Low fat, everything. And to make low-fat food taste good, they packed it with more sugar. You were getting sicker by following the official advice. The truth stayed buried until 2009, when a researcher named Kristen Kearns found the original letters in a basement archive. In 2016, she published it. The sugar industry had shaped how an entire civilization ate. A lie that lasted half a century. Sitting on your plate, inside your own blood. And if they could rewrite your food, the next group tried to rewrite the sky. In the 1960s, America was losing in Vietnam. The enemy moved supplies down hidden jungle roads faster than bombs could stop them. Then someone noticed something simple. When it rained hard, the roads turned to mud, and mud stopped everything. So they asked the impossible question, what if we could make it rain on command? It wasn't fantasy. Back in 1946, a chemist named Vincent Schaefer had dropped dry ice into a cloud and made it snow. They called it cloud seeding. And the military weaponized it. It was called Operation Popeye. Air Force planes flew over the jungle and released silver iodide into the storm clouds. The rain intensified. The monsoon stretched longer. The roads drowned. For years, the U.S. flew roughly 2,600 secret missions, burning through 47,000 seeding flares. They told no one. They were literally using the weather as a weapon. Then in 1971, a reporter named Jack Anderson broke the story. Officials denied it, called it a wild rumor. So the press dug harder, and the proof became undeniable. By 1977, the world was so disturbed that over 70 countries signed a treaty banning weather warfare, a conspiracy theory so absurd it sounds like a fever dream, and it ended in an international law. But governments using nature is one thing. What happens when an organization decides to become the government from the inside? In 1973, the Church of Scientology, founded by a science fiction writer named L. Ron Hubbard, launched something called Operation Snow White. The goal was simple and terrifying. Erase every damaging government file about the church. So they built a network of spies. Members took quiet jobs inside agencies like the IRS, then they stole the files, or destroyed them, or replaced them with fakes. This was not a handful of people. They infiltrated 136 government agencies across more than 30 countries. It became one of the largest infiltrations of the United States government in history. And they didn't just hide files. They went after their critics. A journalist named Paulette Cooper had written a book exposing the church. So they tried to frame her, using her own stolen stationery, for bomb threats she never made. She was facing prison for a crime they invented. Then one of their own operatives ran. He called the FBI. On July 8, 1977, the FBI launched the largest raid in its history. They seized tens of thousands of stolen documents. 11 senior officials were convicted, including Mary Sue Hubbard, the founder's own wife. The man who ordered it all was named an unindicted co-conspirator. He vanished from public life and died in hiding. And here's the thought that lingers. If they got that deep, that quietly, who's to say anyone ever fully cleaned them out? Which brings us to the last one. The one that isn't a memo or a lawsuit or a closed case. The one that is happening right now, tonight, in a forest. For generations, people claimed a secret club of the most powerful men on Earth gathers in private, that they perform strange rituals in the woods. It sounds like the purest paranoia, except it's real. It has a name, the Bohemian Grove. Deep in the redwoods of Northern California sits a private camp, 2,700 acres owned by a club founded back in 1872. Every July, presidents, billionaires, and titans of industry vanish into those trees for 2 weeks. This isn't a rumor. The planning for the atomic bomb, the Manhattan Project, partly happened there in 1942. Presidents from Hoover to Eisenhower to Nixon to Reagan walked those grounds. No cameras, no journalists. One rule above all others. What happens in the grove stays in the grove. And on the first night, something happens that you have to hear to believe. After dark, men in hooded robes carry a coffin in a slow procession. They set it before a giant stone owl, nearly 40 feet tall, looming over a black lake. And then they set the coffin on fire. They call it the cremation of care. For decades, the outside world only had whispers. Until 1989, when a journalist named Philip Weiss slipped inside, posing as a guest, and stayed for 7 days. He saw the robes, the owl, the fire. He wrote it all down, and the grove is still running. This summer, next summer, cameras still banned. The same men in the same forest. So let's go back to the beginning, to the spy cat, the throttled phone, the burning car, the poisoned plate, the seeded sky. The stolen files, the men in the robes, every single one was once called insane. And here is the truth they all share. The lie always sounds saner than the truth. That's why it works. The reasonable explanation goes down easy. The real one sounds crazy, right up until the paperwork arrives, which leaves you with an uncomfortable question. You're still inside the machine. Right now, today, somewhere out there is a document with your trust written into it. A story you've already accepted as obvious. A rumor you've already laughed at. And it hasn't been declassified yet. You won't know which one it is for 30 years. The crazy people aren't always crazy. Sometimes they're just early.